Everyone also knows that when receiving
the opponent
is serving, you definitely must watch the opponent first, right? Because they can decide their own serve. What kind of placement to serve to, right? Including what kind of spin. It is all decided by them, so a good prerequisite for us to judge. Judging their head is a way to judge. Judging their neck is a way to judge. Exactly what should we be judging? This also solves the problem of everyone not knowing how to watch the ball. Actually, when we watch the ball, we need to watch 2 places in total. What is the first thing to watch? Watch the opponent's racket angle when they serve. What exact state is it in? Whether their racket angle is flat determines what kind of spin the opponent is serving. Secondly, what else do we watch? We watch the position of their first bounce. When the opponent serves, this determines whether the ball served to us is here or where it lands. Only then can we use a quick step in to receive it. Let's first talk about how to judge the placement, okay? Okay, if we talk about placement first, everyone look at our opponent. If they want to vary the front to back placement, they definitely have short and long restrict us. So when the opponent goes to serve short or long, no matter what spin they serve, if they want to successfully serve onto the table, they must follow a principle regarding the first bounce. If their first bounce is close to their own side, everyone, look, when this ball goes out, it is definitely a long serve. If the opponent's first bounce of the serve is close to the net on their side, this ball is definitely a short serve. Did everyone see that? Therefore, when you guys are judging, if the opponent's serve is long or short, what problem do you usually have? Watching the opponent's motion. What problem arises from watching that? They think if the opponent's serving motion is small, then it's a short serve. They think if the opponent's serving motion is big, then it's a long serve. This is wrong. Come, now I'll demonstrate one for you. Contradicting your judgment concept. My motion might be very big, but it's short. However, I might do this motion. It might be very small, but what? It can be long, right? So what does this mainly lead to? Everyone, no matter what method I use to serve, the first bounce of my must definitely land close to my own side. Whether it's a pure topspin serve or whatever. Why did my ball just clip the net and go out? It's because I placed the first bounce of the long serve so it resulted in an error. Therefore, if they want to serve onto the table, the first bounce must be accurate. If the first bounce is close to oneself, it's definitely long. If the first bounce is close to the net, it's definitely short. Okay, then I'll do the opposite. Let's see if I can serve it on the table. If my first bounce is close to myself, originally meant to be a long serve, but I try to serve it short. Everyone, look, it can't even clear the net, then if I want to serve long, and I place my first bounce directly in front of the net, it inevitably goes into the net as well. So if they want to serve it successfully, they must get the first bounce right. So when everyone is watching the opponent's motion, what are you watching? At the moment of release, where did they direct the ball? If they directed the ball close to the net, it's definitely a short one. Then when we prepare to start moving, we can actively step closer into the table. But if their first bounce hits directly, very close to themselves, that placement, then this ball is definitely a long serve. Then when we go to judge it, we can appropriately move our feet backward to make an adjustment, right? This way, we can ensure that for a long serve, we have ample space. For a short serve, we can quickly get closer to the ball. This makes it easier to control. If we fail to read a long serve, getting jammed up is very uncomfortable. If we fail to read a short serve, reaching out to play it will also cause problems. Therefore, everyone must first learn through the opponent's first bounce of the serve to judge whether the opponent's serve is long or short. Only then can we adjust after we start moving, whether to anticipate by stepping forward or anticipate by retreating. This is the first practical tip. Secondly, everyone look at the opponent's first bounce. Besides being able to judge if the serve is long or short, their first bounce can also be used to judge left-right placement. Actually, everyone look. Their first bounce, wherever it leans towards, that's where the ball will be served towards. Actually, look, if I were to serve towards, everyone's backhand is a short serve. Everyone, observe where my first bounce lands. Okay, was it just now? Right here? Help me find something. Just now, the first bounce was here, right? At this position, aimed at everyone's backhand short. Now, if I stand in the same position and want to serve towards everyone's forehand as a short serve, everyone, look at where did the first bounce move to now? Didn't it move here? Did everyone see that? So, you see, where its second bounce lands is also related to its first bounce. Wherever the first bounce points to, that's where the ball will head. Look, the first bounce points here, pointing towards everyone's backhand, this ball will travel towards the backhand. If it points towards the middle, this is angled towards the forehand. This ball will travel towards everyone's forehand. Did everyone see that? Based on the left-right placement of the opponent's first bounce, you can similarly judge the left-right placement of the serve when it reaches you. Using the front to back placement of the opponent's first bounce, you can also similarly judge if the opponent's serve is long or short. This is a relatively suitable element for everyone to judge a serve by. Many friends might ask a question. When the opponent serves, what if the ball they serve curves? What if the first bounce is here, and then the ball curves over there when it reaches me, I just mentioned, if I want to serve to everyone's forehand short, this point must definitely travel in this direction. For it to reach the forehand short. So many friends say, what if it curves midway to the backhand? Friends, rest assured, that's impossible. Why is it impossible? Everyone, you need to know. When does a ball formally start curving? Actually, when this ball bounces up from its first bounce, there is no curving trajectory. Where does it start curving? Everyone, look, I'll serve you a very curved one. I'll aim a serve at everyone's forehand short. Look at this ball. Everyone, look at when it starts to curve. Isn't it after it lands on the opponent's side of the table? Meaning, after its placement is established. Then it begins to curve. It's impossible for the first bounce to launch from here, heading towards everyone's forehand, and then mid-flight over the net. It directly curves to everyone's backhand. That is absolutely impossible. So everyone must firmly remember, wherever the opponent's first bounce leans towards, that's exactly where the ball will be. Even if it curves, it has to wait until it lands on your side of the table. Start curving. So to summarize, by using the opponent's first bounce of the serve, you can judge the front-back and left-right placement. If the first bounce is close to the net, it's close to themselves. Whichever side the first bounce leans towards, the ball will definitely travel to that side. Leaning left, it travels towards everyone's forehand side. It travels towards everyone's backhand side. Okay, now for our next segment, I'll teach everyone how to judge spin. If you can't judge exactly what spin the opponent is serving, you'll keep eating serves misreading. They originally served a backspin, but you return it as a topspin. They serve a topspin, you return it as a backspin. That becomes a mess. Right? Everyone, actually, look, what causes us to directly eat the serve? Because we didn't see the spin clearly. Left and right side spin. It's left and right side spin, right? Within their serves, there's the hook serve, for example, right side topspin. They can also serve something like right side backspin. Let me do another one. Right side backspin, right? They can serve left side topspin. And also left side backspin, right? So these kinds of balls are very hard to judge. Then I'll teach everyone when we are watching the ball, how should we watch for spin? The method for watching spin. What are we watching? The opponent's racket angle at the exact moment of contact. Because most friends, when returning serves, judge inaccurately. Or perhaps you'll notice, when you return serves from regular amateurs, it feels okay. But you'll notice, when you return serves from professional players, once they add fake motions, you'll find you simply cannot return them. Isn't that right? So where does this problem stem from? Why can fake motions deceive you? It's because when you are watching the ball, you are just watching the motion. You are just watching the motion. That's why fake motions can deceive you. So what are you watching in the motion? You are watching the direction of the opponent's motion, right? You think if the opponent's motion goes upward, right? If the motion lifts upward, it must be topspin. You think if the force of the opponent's serving motion is chopping downward, if the force is applied downward, then you always feel this ball is backspin, right? Am I right? Actually, it's also most correct of the time, but a professional player, they absolutely won't be so honest, using the direction of the motion, upward or downward, to directly tell you what spin this ball is. So if the opponent uses a fake motion, what do they definitely want to do? It might be saying, I'll make an upward lifting motion, to mislead everyone into thinking it's topspin. But the result is I serve a backspin ball, right? Then what? Then what else will they do? They deliberately chop downwards and forward, slice it to make everyone. What? To make everyone think the ball we served is a backspin. But the result? The ball they served is a straight forward-moving topspin ball, right? Okay, so how should we judge accurately? That means we should no longer watch the motion. Watching the motion is inaccurate. What should you watch? Watch the racket angle. Because regardless of whether the opponent serves left side spin, side top, it mainly depends on what racket angle. It mainly depends on this racket angle. Okay, so how should we look for left and right side spin? For left side spin, everyone look. Where is my racket face pointing? It's pointing outward, right? My racket face is pointing outward. Come everyone, when my racket face points outward, You see, the served ball, it goes towards everyone's left hand, curving towards the backhand side, a left side spin, right? Okay, then how do we serve a right side
Everyone
spin?
also knows what kind of reverse spin does a right side
There is
spin
the hook
have.
serve, the forehand squatting chop tomahawk
And also
serve,
the backhand serve.
These all belong to right side spin.
So their common point lies in that.
At the moment of contacting the ball, where is their racket face pointing?
They are all pointing inward towards oneself.
Pointing towards one's own
Everyone
chest.
look at me serving a hook
The
serve.
forehand racket face points inward. Isn't the serve produced a right side spin?
Okay, second, the reverse pendulum
Everyone
serve.
look.
Isn't my racket face also pointing inward? A right side spin curving to the
Third,
right.
the
isn't it?
forehand squatting chop tomahawk serve.
I also use the racket to brush the ball.
The
right side of the racket face points inward, curving
Same
to the
goes
right.
for the
Everyone
backhand.
look. Isn't the racket face also doing what? Pointing in that direction. Did everyone see that? Isn't this also a right side spin? Isn't it also a right
So
side
everyone,
spin? You should be able to see now, if you want to accurately judge the opponent's serve, whether it is a left side spin
or a right side spin, then we should
just
right?
observe. At the exact moment the opponent contacts the
What is
ball,
their racket face doing?
the orientation of the racket
The
face.
orientation of
If
the racket face
points outward, it is a left side spin up. If the racket face points inward, it is a what? A right side spin. Only when you
Therefore,
clearly distinguish if the opponent is serving a
or a
left
right
side
side
spin.
spin.
Can you know, when returning this serve, whether you should contact the left side of the ball or the right side of the ball? Left and right side spin depend on the orientation of the racket face, whether it points
Or
outward.
inward.
Side top and side back
Depend
spin
on
whether your racket face is vertical or flat. Why do I say this? Everyone, when
Look.
my racket face is relatively flat, I am definitely brushing the ball more towards the bottom.
Right?
So when I brush more towards the bottom of the ball, everyone look.
Isn't it a ball leaning towards backspin?
A ball with more backspin generally
Everyone,
travels backward.
look.
Don't they all travel backward? Okay.
This is side back.
Then how should side top be served? Side top is when we are at the moment of contacting the ball. We stand the racket face up, which means having a somewhat vertical feeling. You stand it up, and I chop it downward. Everyone look, will this ball still
backward horizontally from
no,
the table?
it won't. What will this ball
It
do?
will travel straight forward.
Did you see? This ball will travel straight forward. This ball then forms a topspin ball, right? So when you all go to judge whether the opponent is serving side top or side back, you must observe the opponent's racket angle. If you guys just rely on the up or down motion to judge if this ball is topspin or backspin, wouldn't you make a misjudgment? Come, everyone, look.
What motion am I
Looking
making
upward.
now?
Look, what spin
Didn't
is
it
this
curve
ball?
backward?
Isn't
Horizontally
this a side back? Right? Is it spinning? Okay, now let me do a downward chopping motion. Is this ball a side top
Look,
spin? Once it lands on your table, you can tell at a glance that this ball kicks forward. It travels forward, right? For side back spin, look, ball directly from the table surface curves backward horizontally. Isn't it? But my motion was indeed. For backspin, my motion was hooking
For
upward.
topspin,
I was chopping
so
downward.
the reason for this lies in what?
As long as my racket is flat and brushing the bottom of
Even
the
if
ball,
my
motion goes up to the sky, it is still backspin. See that, friends? My racket is flat. I chop up to the sky. I scoop up to the sky. Friends, it's backspin, right? Right? Okay. Then if I hold the racket vertically, and now brush the side of the ball. Now I'll directly chop downward for everyone. Chop downward. Chopping downward is originally
My racket is vertical.
right? Everyone look.
What is this?
Everyone look. Doesn't it travel forward? Topspin, look. Chop downward, right? I directly use the racket to chop the ball downward. It travels forward,
Doesn't
right?
it travel forward? Isn't this a topspin ball?